Well, hello, everybody. Welcome into NASCAR Inside the Race. I am Alex Weaver, joined as always by Steve Letarte and Kyle Petty. We also have a friend joining us out at the Jewel of the Desert at Phoenix Raceway. I'm going to welcome in Todd Gordon, who's repping the blue shirts. He's coming off of MRN duty, calling the race up there. But we have Todd, who's just here to put Steve in a crew chief place. They can just go back and forth at what they thought of this pit box and how to call a race at Phoenix. And how to go against Team Penske because it was a Penske show out for the weekend, an incredible weekend put on by Fox Sports. We talked about it here on NASCAR Inside the Race last week about this was just such an iconic motorsports weekend with IndyCar and NASCAR doing the doubleheader. But Roger Penske, the captain, has a sweep. But the more important story is the driver today who just overcame everything, Ryan Blaney. So, Stevie, I want to start with you. What'd you make of YRB out there in the desert?
Listen, are you
Typical day for
sure?
him.
Because I mean, Todd worked at Penske. He's won out. I mean, he's won championships. He knows everything about it. Look, Blaney. Okay, so his speed was, I don't want to say it was shocking, but it was a bit more impressive than I was ready for. I thought the Penske cars were going to be good. We talked about this last week. We thought the big three were going to be good. In my mind, Penske was everything I thought they would be. Toyota was kind of everything they thought they would be. Chevy, we didn't really know what was up. And I would think it's fair to say they need to figure something out with maybe their new body is what I'm going to assign it to, because they were a little off what I thought they would be. But Blaney, rarely does the fastest car win, especially when you have 1,001 mistakes that the 12 car had today. But it just proves that why does everybody chase raw speed? Because raw speed kind of baptizes any mistake you've ever made. And that's what happened to the 12 today. They couldn't make a mistake big enough to put this 12 in a deficit that Ryan Blaney behind the wheel couldn't overcome.
KP, what'd you make of this driving ability? I mean, we are so used to Ryan being so talented, and especially when it comes here to Phoenix. He won here in the championship race. I think people forget about because Kyle Larson won the championship from that battle. But when it comes to Phoenix Raceway, there is starting to be nobody better other than Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, I think there's there, and Ryan's good a couple of places, and I mean he's deceptively good at Martinsville too. There's a couple of places that we go, and all you hear from drivers a lot of times is I can't pass, and Phoenix is hard to pass, and once you get caught back in traffic, and we hear it from the commentators, we hear it from everybody, that's a mistake on pit road. He's not going to find his way back to the front. That's true, unless you're Ryan Blaney, because Ryan Blaney always seemed to find a way to get back to the top 10, to get back to the top 15 or whatever as we got into these segments. And I was blown away when he went to the back after the first loose wheel, when he went to the back, he was back up in seemingly 8 or 10 laps. It seemed like back in contention where he could see the top 10. And that was totally, and that was just impressive to me. I think Blaney has always, if you looked at, for me, and Todd can speak more than anything else, when you look at the Penske cars, he just seems to carry corner speed like nobody else there can, and has. And he carries corner speed at Phoenix, and that's what you need. You need that corner speed. You need that entrance to be able to get in and feel comfortable, but to be able to accelerate through the middle and off. And that's where he carried it. And he carried it all day long today. And we saw it just wrapping the bottom. He could move up, but wrapping the bottom was where his speed was.
Crazy to say this, but go for it, Todd.
No, it's just his ability, even in turns 1 and 2. Steve, back in our days, we called it the Harvick line. When Kevin Harvick would just beat people down there, Ryan just rolls so much speed down on the flat in 1 and 2. And then his discipline to get to the yellow line in 3 and 4, even late in the run, just it's incredible. He has so much throttle control. His talent's just that's what makes his long runs so darn good, is that he just doesn't overslip the tires. He's so good at just modulating that car, making it turn, and not abusing the rear tires.
Todd, I saw separation in the field. Is that early in the year, or do you think that's the power? Like you know what I mean? Like everyone didn't look the same. I could see some variance even on TV.
I feel like Phoenix has turned into a fabulous racetrack. I think as it's aged, it continues to get wider. I think the power helped that because guys had to modulate throttle. It wasn't just a light switch on and off. They, especially as the tires went up. And Goodyear's done a great job of bringing this softer tire. It brought it to the championship race last year, and it put on another good race. Steve, to what you talked about earlier, I feel like the Chevrolets get a little bit of a gimme here because this is the first race on the new body. And anytime somebody's got a new body, it takes a few races to sort it out. I would expect that. I kind of expected what we thought. And I don't know about you guys, but if you asked me who was going to contend for the win here, I'd have picked the two guys that won.
Yeah. And I mean, we see kind of the same players when it comes to Phoenix here lately. It's Penske, it's Christopher Bell. We're going to get into everything on top of the pit box with the tire issues, the horsepower, with Chevy figuring out that new body that they have this year. But the word of the day for Ryan Blaney was perseverance, because he's passing 49 cars. He overcame not one, but two loose tires on pit road. The team showed dominance, and it was a hard-fought day. And even Ryan said it in his post-race interview. He mentioned about it's really special when you can win them this way. So let's take a listen to the winner from Phoenix, Ryan Blaney.
No, I mean, just perseverance. I mean, everybody on the 12 group persevered all day. We had a couple mistakes that, we learned from and got better and had to come from the back a couple times. And honestly, the 20 was the best car. But Jonathan made a great call to take two. And we were able to get the lead and just hold them off. I don't know how many more laps I would have been able to hold them off, but we were able to do that. So really proud of everybody. At Team Penske, so cool. We swept the weekend. Newgarden winning yesterday, us winning today. Can't wait to see Roger. Appreciate Dent Wizard, Ford Racing for what they do. Menards, Wabash, Discount Tire, Body Armor, Advanced Auto Parts, Dex Imaging, everything that these people put into our program is cool. And so it's cool to win here again. And especially after a day like that. So I can't say enough about the 12 guys for keeping their head down and doing what they do, and Jonathan, again, for making a good call there at the end.
Okay, the
KP,
20 was the best car. Wait, the 20 was the best car, maybe with two extra tires. I mean, I didn't have them the best car except for the final run.
Well, I want to get into the deja vu of Joe Gibbs Racing, but first I want to ask KP, Ryan Blaney's stealing your look there from the 80s a little bit.
Yeah, look, man, I love that mustache. I love the flowing locks. I love the way he gets out.
I knew you would.
He does this. He gets just right. And you know what? People love him. And we were talking about it as he got out of the car and the fans cheer and he gives away the flag and he stands up and he says, "Listen, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. We had a good show, good race." And I mean, he thanks the fans for being there. He thanks all that, and it's sincere. It comes across as sincere. So, listen, he's the people's champion right now, and I think that mustache is part of it.
Team Penske's won 4 of the 9 Phoenix races in the NextGen car. That's the most of any team. So, TG, I'm bringing it to you because you know what goes on inside of that building. But what makes Team Penske so good at Phoenix?
I'm ready. I got my pen ready. So please let me have all the secrets.
Oh.
Well, I think right now their short track program, and Joey will tie us back to when they did a tire test at North Wilkesboro, that they really got their short track program into a place that they understand it. And I think they understand what they need. Kyle talked about it, but they've got enough security to get in the corner, but they can still roll the center speed and just roll that thing. And they work together, and they have you know how this goes. When you get to short tracks and you figure a racetrack out, you know what to go back and look for. You know what you're looking to feel in your car. And I think they just, they made an effort because this was a championship race. This was a focus for them, and their notebook is still carrying over into this year.
Stevie, I said it. My favorite Phoenix was Spring Phoenix. I love me some springtime Phoenix.
So I think I like it even better because the anticipation for me built with a couple speedways and then a road course. I didn't know what we were going to see. To be honest, I felt that like it really just kind of picked up where the fall left off, right? Tire issues were a real thing. The same cars were fast. Denny Hamlin wasn't as dominant as he was, but we have had a power change and an off season of preparation. But, I felt like there were more options for the driver, which doesn't guarantee better racing, but then I think the drivers used those options to put on a pretty good show for the fans. And I think that's what I liked about it a little bit. They were moving around. So it had everything I was looking for. It really did. The dog leg was more chaotic than it always looks funny. So I'm the guy in the production meeting that complains when all we want to do is talk about the dog leg. Cause I'm like, look, it looks crazy and they're 5 wide, but nothing really happens there. Well, shame on me because today everything happened in the dog leg. So I wasn't quite Sure. But you know what this reminds me of, Todd? You and I broke this down a year ago. As soon as we go to the first, quote, standard race, when I use the word standard, I mean 4-tire pit stops and adjustment, not gas onlys like the speedways and stuff. It really like amplified the pressure on everyone. And I felt like everyone looked rusty. Like pit road up and down, there were issues. There were like Joey Logano just like flat squeezed the 16, I thought, and ran into the back of the one. And like Joey Logano's a champ, right? Like his talent's not in question. I just felt like everybody looked either a little, I don't know if it was, rusty or if it was like anxiety or anticipation of like getting going because they're back to a track where they feel as a driver you have so much involvement.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Steve, that this is the first time that they've kind of had to be aggressive in that way. The other thing about here at Phoenix is when we reconfigured this, the grandstands are through turns 3 and 4, and they're great. They keep the sun at your back. It's a great situation. But the spotters are on top of that grandstand in the middle of 3 and 4. So the depth perception to call clears into turn 1, you can't do it. It's so hard when cars are driving straight away from you to understand who's where. It's a tough sight line here, and it actually leans more on the drivers to kind of feel their way around. And I feel like Joey kind of tried to feel his way into a hole that was about -4 inches.
KP, what did you see from the driver's side of that with watching Logano?
I said on the first one with Joey and Chastain, Joey just got tired of driving one car and he decided to drive 2 because he just hooked up and just drove through Chastain right there. I'm sorry, that's what the way I saw it. And on the other one, I agree with what Todd says. Where the spotters are, and I'm going to say this, and I know this is not popular, but you're the one sitting in a freaking car hanging onto the steering wheel. Don't count on somebody else to save your ass every time you get to the corner or every time you make a bad move. No, this is not my hot take. But I'm just saying this should be my hot take. But don't. How many? And I hate to hear drivers get out and, well, my spotter didn't tell me he was there. What do you mean he didn't tell me? You just drove past the guy and cut up across his hood. You knew he was there. You saw him out the windshield right before that. So I think in this case, Joey was, and like he said, I thought it was 2 wide. It was 3 wide. He could have given me more room. I could have done this, whatever. It's a wreck. It's one of those racing things, and we can call it that. But that is the chaos of this dog leg. That is the chaos of cutting this thing short. And that chaos, and we saw it multiple times, whatever happens over here kind of transfers to coming off turn 2 and in the middle of the backstretch a lot of times too. So once you get through that first lap after a restart, you seem to be okay with it. But this first one, 4, 5, 6 wide, there's not enough spotters in the world to tell you where everybody's at.
The backstretch at Phoenix also scares me. I mean, it's so tight quarters. I'm surprised that the wrecks weren't more major than what we saw.
Yeah, and look, it's a fast track.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It has a little bit of everything. It belongs on the schedule for all the right reasons. It doesn't look like anything else. The fan. How was the crowd? It was hard to tell on TV because they're in the shades. You couldn't really see. Todd, you out your window right there where you're still sitting. How was the crowd out there? I've been used to the championship race, and it's out of control. Was it pretty full?
It wasn't a sellout, but it was a decent crowd. It was a decent crowd, and really yesterday's attendance was a record for a Saturday show here. And I mean, the traffic is sitting on the bridge in front of me, 4 wide, sitting taillights to taillights. So there was a good crowd here, and they got a great weekend of racing.
Yeah.
If you've never been to Phoenix, I mean, it's just beautiful. It is creme de la creme. They've done everything right. They put the fans first. The garage that they remodeled and redid is just stellar. A lot of experiences, and normally the campgrounds you can see for miles and miles and miles. There are just RVs and motorhomes that come and crowd Phoenix. So I always love when we get out there. It's just such a pretty racetrack for me. But let's kind of flip the script a little bit because we talked about Team Penske. But my big question for the last several weeks is, where in the heck is Joe Gibbs Racing? What has been going on with them? And then I also, KP, I'm leaning on you with this one because I feel like we had a little bit of deja vu. We obviously had the championship race. You were on the show there after we crowned Kyle Larson a champion. What is with Joe Gibbs Racing taking 4 tires on the final pit stop?
Man, I don't know.
Bell did it today.
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. And I thought, okay, so we knew track position was king in November. Oh, I guess it still is in the spring. Is that what you're telling me? That I need to, and listen, these two guys, where am I pointing at? I don't know where they're on my screens here. They're crew chiefs. They're the ones that have to make that call. And that's tough. I'm glad that I was never a crew chief. And I mean that in all honesty, because
I didn't hate the call.
No,
I didn't hate the call by Adam Stevens. I really, with 22 laps left in the race, it wasn't the fall. The fall was a 2-lap run. The fall I thought was straightforward. This one, with 20-some laps and restarting 8th, I thought he was in a good position. The challenge was we had another caution, which really cut it down to about a 12-lap run. I thought at the time he made the call, if it goes green, he wins. It didn't go green. That cost him the race.
Yeah, well, I think,
and to be clear, hold on, I'm in the chat here, and one of the fans brings us up that JGR did take 2 with Gibbs.
They did.
So what I will say is I really liked that they had split options.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether they talked about it or it was just a strategic call by the 2 crew chiefs. I love the fact that the fans caught that. I think they caught it on the broadcast as well, because I'm actually with Todd on this one. I thought they were going to be flipped because Ty had taken 2 the time before. I thought he was going to take 4 and maybe Bell would take 2. But look, I say this at the time. It's a broken record. I'll say it again. What do you want to lose with? Because with no yellow, I think 4 has a better chance. I'm not saying they're going to catch him. I don't know what could happen, right?
Yeah.
But what are you okay with losing with? And I think Bell was like, we want to have 4 because if the thing goes green, we think 4 is going to take it. And Ty took 2. And I thought it got both of them their better finishes, right? 2nd and 4th, Hamlin in 5th. So I think to answer your question, Joe Gibbs Racing was just treading water, waiting to get to the downforce tracks is all they were doing, because now they showed up as we would expect. A little more long run than maybe I was expecting. They didn't have quite all the fire off speed, but their long run speed, very impressive.
Okay, so Steve, would you have taken 4 tires or 2? Like, are you playing for the no caution, or are you playing for?
So if I go back to last year, I think the mistake wasn't the amount of tires that the 11 team made. The mistake was where they were pitting. They could have just saw what the 5 did and then countered. So I'm going to tell you today, I was going to take 4 tires today. I would have lost with 4 tires today, because I know what Kyle's saying about history and everything's right. And I agree. And they're right. It's just, and if I'm Ryan Blaney, I take 2, because I think the only thing I lose in is traffic, because I have the best car here. The 20, I could coin flip. Anybody else, I'm taking 4, because I'm like, if Blaney's anywhere near me, he's going to drive by me. Like I'm not just playing the odds. I'm also playing a little offensive defense, right? I'm trying to figure out who I'm trying to beat. So I don't think the answer is the same from everybody. I actually thought Larry Mack did a really nice job. I think it was Larry who said, if you're 20th, you take 2, because you may not win the race, but you're not going to finish 20th. And I liked how he explained that to the fans.
Yeah, I do too. But this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, and I'm going to go back to November too. And whether it's 2 or 4, I think it's where you lined up and where you had to get to.
Totally.
Okay. And I'm looking at Gibbs in the 54 car, who struggles to run the same line through a corner lap after lap. So I'm going to have to get around him some way, shape, or form on his 2. And then I'm looking at the guy who will lay on your door and run you wherever you want to run, high, low, it doesn't make any difference. And Larson, and I've got to get around him. And I think that Bell spent just long enough having to mess with those guys that he didn't have that clear track to run him down. It was just a couple of laps, and that's how close the call was. But when I looked at that, I'm thinking, I got to go around Gibbs and I got to go around Larson, and that's going to be dang tough with 10 or 15 laps, with 10 laps to go. Basically,
well, if you take the emotion out, here's the fact. Blaney wins on 2, Bell's second on 4, Larson 2, Gibbs 2, Hamlin 4, Wallace 4, Byron 2, 2, 2, 4. Yeah. Like, it's a mixed bag. It is. I think, and I'll say this again, put them in the bag, jumble them up, dump them out, you could get different results. I mean, I think that's where Todd and I look, why do you think Todd and I are in media now? It's not fun. It sucks. Caution comes out, you go, oh, boy. I'm with you. And here, I'm going to tell you what happens, too. You look at your engineers, and they're like, they're looking around like, oh, nip. This isn't the data. This is not this, sir. What do you need for information?
That's why you're the crew chief.
Everybody's going to come.
Yeah.
So, right, can I insert my hot take here?
I look at it and I say, if I'm Christopher Bell, if I'm Adam Stevens, I don't want to get beat. I don't want to get beat by not taking. My car's been really good. I'm going to put 4 tires on it. And really, if you look at this race, and this is the piece you don't know until afterwards. Yeah. But Christopher Bell is running Ryan Blaney down. Ryan Blaney said in his post-race interview, I don't know if we had 3 more laps, I could have held him off. Well, if we don't have the caution, we have 8 more green flag laps.
True.
Christopher Bell ends up driving by. So it's one of those, you don't know what the future is going to be. You got to make an educated guess. I don't hate the call, to Steve's point, of what the writers or the readers brought in. I love that JGR went on both sides of the strategy. 1-2, 1-4.
Yeah. Kyle, you were wound up. What were you going to say?
I was just about to let him loose.
You said it. So I'm gonna go to the hot take here. You said, I look at the data, I look at this, I look at all we've done in the past, I look at my computer. Let me tell you something, okay? My hot take is, does the sim transfer to the racetrack? And I'm going to say, I guess not, because my man Anthony Alfredo said, I have more laps in the sim at Phoenix than any other place. When I went out in that 48 car, I felt comfortable. I felt right at home. I guess you did. You qualified 36 and you ran 36 all day. That's where the car was. Is that what the sim taught you? It told me today that the sim is important. It is a tool. It's not AI. It's not the answer. It's not everything. It makes you familiar. But nothing beats Bud in a seat, hanging onto a steering wheel and running those physical laps and understanding the tires and understanding where everything is and understanding what the car feels like, understanding all that. Because you can take every lap that Anthony Alfredo ran in that sim, okay? And you can put it in the bathroom over here, and you know what you can do with it when you go to the bathroom. You can wipe with it. That's what you can do with it, because it made no difference. It made no difference for a guy who had that many laps on a racetrack. Supposedly, the guys who had the physical laps on the racetrack still win. I'm not against the sim, but I'm just saying, a tip of the hat to all the Cup drivers who show up doing nothing but looking at the sim and go out there and put on a show like Blaney did and like all these other guys did, because they are physically talented people who transfer everything they know to the racetrack.
So listen, I've completely jumped on this subject. When we took practice away, I was like, I don't think it's going to make a difference to who runs well and who wins. And I really don't think it's a big difference there, but I do believe it is not good for the sport in general. So now I am a team practice. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. It doesn't have to be this. And it's actually not for the engineers. It's not for the sim. And it's not for this. It's for the drivers. We start to see this new young wave, Brent Cruz and these guys trying to run an Xfinity. I don't know, have these numbers. I guess we're going to get the smart guys. We'll get Bert and Ernie to get this done. We'll get Russell and the guys on it. But think of how many laps, John Hunter Nemechek has versus, Joey Logano. And my point is, I think I just listen. Cars on track. You said it. I'm team practice.
All right, Todd. Well, I know you mentioned the traffic, so I want you to go sit in those beautiful
let him go,
lights.
because he's supposed to be in the lab tomorrow. You need to get him out of there.
There you go. So I'm going to let him disappear from Phoenix. But Todd, we'll see you on Letarte's lab. We'll preview what you have going on later in the show. But thanks for joining us, and get out of the desert.
Thanks, guys. Great race.
I was worried. If you keep him too long, he misses his flight. I'm on my own tomorrow.
I'm not going to be the reason that he misses that flight. I know how that works. The scramble to the victory plane. All right. So we kind of already went on top of the pit box a little bit, but we were talking about the tires that Goodyear brought, but there were a lot of tire issues. A lot of tires went down, which Steve, kind of the same old story at Phoenix.
Yeah, listen, we can make it as complicated as you want, but I'm going to make it as simple as thing. Less air is better. Less air is better for mechanical grip. Less air is better to get your diffuser to the ground to create more downforce. Less right rear air is better. You are just trying to decide for your car, for your camber, for your toe, for your position on the racetrack, for the speed you're going to run, for how much your driver is going to use the flat, what is too little. And put on top of that, while I believe Goodyear brings a very good tire, all tires aren't the same. It's impossible to say every single tire has the exact amount of tolerance, because that would be a lie as well. There are so many variables in this equation. So the simple fact is, and we're not talking pounds. We're not making 1, 2, 3 pounds of air pressure adjustment. We're talking like half pounds, right? So the recommended right side tires, if you're watching the video here, 30 on the right front, 26 on the right rear. I can assure you there are guys way less. And that's because you just go faster. So what happens is, and I've done it, So I'm not going to pick on any team that's done it. But if you're at whatever, call it 23, and you're a 10th place car, and you go to 22.5, and you become a 6th place car, well, of course you're going to want to go to 22. And then if that works, of course you're going to want to go to 21 3/4. And like, listen, it's the fruit. It's the magic. It's a direct alignment to speed. I think NASCAR and Goodyear and the teams have to just be okay with this, because this is part of the racing. Now, look, I think the yellows made the race better. I don't know if I'm on board. We saw the graphic here with the tire count. I guess I could go either way, whether you have enough or not enough. 8 sets for the race is good in a perfect world, but if you get a disaster of cautions, we already tired.
You would want more?
Xfinity. You know what I mean, Alex? We already tire race in Xfinity, so I wish they had a few more. But
what would be your ideal number, though? If you say 8 is the number right now, what would you want?
Like today, I wish they would have had 10.
Okay.
Like Chase Elliott spun out, and that's why he lost his track position. But it's the same for everyone. So here's the problem. I'm okay with it because it's the same for everyone. I think we're about a set too few about everywhere we go, but that's just a personal opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a firm believer in unlimited. Like it used to be. When somebody falls out, you rush down to their pit and you buy their tires from them because you need extra tires. That's the way it is. That's the way it always was. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but in a sport that you pay hundreds of millions of dollars to compete, we're trying to save money with 2 or 3 sets of tires on a weekend, and we're trying to control this with that. And I just don't enjoy that part of it. You know what I mean? I don't enjoy.
Back then, you could bring tires from home to the racetrack and run home. Now, like for the fan listening at home, if you blow up on lap 1, all 8 sets of tires get shredded. You have paid for them, and you will never use them, nor will anyone ever use them. Congratulations, you now have made mulch for somebody somewhere.
That's right. That's exactly right. So it's crazy, but I'm a firm believer in the unlimited part. I want to say this about the tire, and Steve is exactly right. And I'm gonna give Goodyear some props here for putting up that graphic that we saw and putting it out on X and putting it out on social media so people understood it. Because the tire and what they put out is like the warning label on the top level of a 6-foot ladder. It says, "Don't stand here. If you stand here and you fall off, it's not my fault. If you stand here and something happens to you, it's not my fault. You can't sue the ladder company." Goodyear put this out to say, this is what we say, and this is how we say to use our product. If you use the product differently, it's on you, man. Don't call me. It's on you. And that's what we see, because we know as competitors, Steve knows it, when you start moving that and you start doing some things with that pressure and the way the tire flexes, what it does, how the buildup is, there's speed there. And you're not, as a competitor, going to leave speed laying on the table. You're just not. And we saw it. You saw it as the race went on and it came time to be competitive and to be aggressive. We saw teams get aggressive with those tire pressures. And that's when we begin to see more and more tires.
Yeah.
We're watching a lot, and it was obviously Kyle Busch that had the first tire incident on track today, but somebody in the chat asked if Kyle Busch wins a race this year. KP, what's your thoughts on the 8 winning?
I would like to see the 8 win. That's my
Me
thought.
too.
I don't think we're going to see the 8 win. That's my thoughts. I don't see it. I don't see it in the cards, and he's not started that way. I just don't see it. I think Kyle Busch is one of the greatest race car drivers ever to crawl through a window and strap into one of these things. And I think he still is today. But that team is just far enough out of where they need to be that he can't put that car on his back and carry it. And I just think they listen, I talked about being aggressive on tire pressure. They were aggressive from the time they dropped the green flag on tire pressure, obviously, when nobody else was. They were the first guys out there trying stuff.
Yeah, they made a crew chief change, right? Pullman's on top of the pit box this year. He kind of found some magic with Allgaier. No, Allgaier did win on Saturday with a different crew chief this year, but Norman in the chat says he feels bad for Busch. I think we all do. Look, there was a time when he was young that most of the garage wanted to strangle him, and that's because he was brash and winning. And nobody likes to, when the guy's winning, it's hard to like a guy. He's a champ. He's not, you see what he's doing with Brexton, teaching him how to race. He's really putting himself out there. I think he's almost flipped it over and becoming a fan favorite. That's something I thought would never happen.
Yeah.
I can't, as a professional analyst, say that Kyle Busch wins a race this year on speed. Can he win a race because he has experience and something comes his way? Maybe Jim Pullman and him hit on something on a certain day, but I just unfortunately think the team's too far off on just overall performance to think that he's just one turn away from a win.
Yeah.
Every single week we go into a race and I'm like, this has to be the week, right? Like at some point, this is going to be Kyle Busch's weekend where things are going to go his way. And now I'm starting to look at the 8 and I'm like, they're lucky if they finish. Like it's a good day if they finish.
So hold on. So I got one for you then. He finished right behind Austin Dillon.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, does Austin Dillon win a race this year? Because he's unbelievable at Richmond, right? Right, KP? Like let's just take the driver out for a minute. Does RCR win a race this year? Does RCR have the pace? I think we would all say they could, but I don't think anyone on this panel expects RCR to win a race. Is that fair? I don't want to put words in your mouth, KP. RCR?
Okay, so and this is what I'm going to say. I think a lot of it's going to depend, and we talked about it a little bit earlier when we talked about the Toyotas and the Fords and Chevy coming with a new body. I think it's going to take who figures out this body? When do they figure out this body? We know that RCR, whatever they show up at Richmond with Austin Dillon, they are gold. That we know that's where they've been. But now they're not even going to have that to go back to Richmond because they got a different car. They got a different aero package. They got a different body. They got different power. They got a lot of different stuff when they go back this year. So I just don't see RCR winning a Cup race and you said it better. And maybe this is a better way to put it, on speed. I don't see him just going out there and physically outrunning or running head to head with the Gibbs or the Penskes and what we've seen so far out of 23XI and those guys. I just don't see him running head to head. Today, most of the day, they spent their time 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. When Austin, again, got aggressive on tires, he drives himself up into the top 7 or 8 or whatever it is. But that's as far as he could drive himself up to also. So I just don't see that.
Well, let me tell you what's not a popular opinion with Kyle Busch, besides not winning a race, is bringing Cletus McFarland anytime up to Cup because he's irritated. He's even getting some O'Reilly starts. Let's hear from one of my favorite sound bites I've ever heard Kyle Busch say, and that's saying a lot. Listen to him in the media center.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many races he's run. Denny Hamlin ran 10,000 before he got here, right? So I don't know if Cletus has run 10 or not, but there's definitely a need to having ample experience of just, my son's probably run more races than he has, and he's 10 years old. You know what I mean? So I don't think that sets well with many of us.
So I'm going to break this down for folks that are not necessarily keeping up with this. So Cletus McFarland, YouTube personality, huge motorsports personality, and has so many followers on YouTube and all of social media. He has been running some ARCA races. He's been running some Craftsman Truck Series races, and he's gotten the call up from RCR, from Pop to come and race some O'Reilly races. And it's going to be his first one. We know this right now is the only one that's been announced, is Rockingham. So Kyle Busch, in typical Kyle Busch fashion, which, by the way, your boss man was the one that called up Cletus to get this opportunity, just gives his hot take. And this is why I love covering Kyle Busch. Not only was he such a talented race car driver, but he just is full of opinions that I just love hearing all the time. KP, can Cletus get in the sim and get some
Yes, listen, first, I love Kyle Busch's little dig at Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin ran 10,000 races. So that's a little dig at Denny too. You know what I mean? And then he says, Braxton's run as many races as Braxton's probably run. So now I'm at a stage where all you have to do to be a NASCAR Xfinity or truck, or not Xfinity, O'Reilly or truck, to get to that level is to have your parents buy you a video game when you're young so you can learn how to drive on a sim, or have 10 million YouTube followers. You've just got to be an internet sensation. You don't have to have any talent. You don't have to know anything about it. You just have to drive a Crown Vic and have some great races and some great crowds show up for you. And I understand the promotional side of it, but we have seen so many people come into this sport that are all hype and nothing left, and there's nothing left. And listen, I like that he's going to run Rockingham because I like races that have cautions and not stage cautions, that have real cautions. So we're going to see something. And I hate to say it, but we're going to see it. And this is the pot calling the kettle black. Let me go ahead and say that. Because when I started and I was 18, I had no experience. My dad took me to Daytona and turned me loose on a racetrack, and I ran the ARCA race. And then the next 5 races I ran in my life were all Cup races. I was just a Cup driver. I went straight from high school to being a Cup driver. Now, how do you like that? Somewhere in between, I got to be a Grand Marshal at a race somewhere. So that was my claim to fame at the time. So this is the pot calling the kettle black, and I say that because I was on a racetrack with Bobby Allison and Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Ricky Rudd and guys like that. And I had that much experience and that much business being out there. I learned in the wrong place. And I know that looking back at it. I just don't think that in this day and time when we have so many forms of racing and so many ways to get here, that just because you're a celebrity or an internet sensation, that you should be able to walk through the gates and get in one of these cars. By God, these other guys that are out there have earned their way there. They have put in the hours. They have put in the time. They have done the stuff they needed to do. And when they walk through that gate, nobody looks at them and goes, I don't know how this is going to turn out. They accept them. They bring them in and they try to teach them. And I just think the learning curve's steep.
I will say this. So I don't think O'Reilly is where he needs to be. I almost blame the system a little bit because, like I said, I'm team practice. I don't think there's a lot, if this was going to be 15 or 20 years ago, if I was still a crew chief and we had a driver that brought money or we had a reason we had to run somebody, we would run 2 or 3 tests and we'd get them a lot of time and we would get them up to speed. I will say, though, I wish there was a place for Cletus to go run because I took part in the Rolex, and the Rolex has AM drivers. So it's AM and pro out there together, and nobody talks about how dangerous it might be. Now there's some license qualifications and some other things I'm not going to get into here. So my point is this. Do I think Cletus should jump in O'Reilly at the level at which he has with the experience of which he has? I do think it's a big step. I do believe there have been other drivers that have started in the O'Reilly series that have tried to take the same side step. So I'm not saying Cletus is a one-off. There have been people that have taken the green flags, and I'm scratching my head thinking, and I'm not going to stop dropping names around here, but it's not one. It's a handful or 2 handfuls of drivers that before they ever went down into turn 1, I was like, man, I'm just not sure this is the place for this person. Now, with that, and maybe it's clear and maybe I just don't see it, but I wish there was more opportunity for Cletus's or CEOs that love racing that are now spending their money to go run in a sports car race somewhere. Like let's open our NASCAR arms and give them come and race. Like give them a series, or maybe we have a series that should have an AM and a pro class together. Now look, no offense, Kyle, I don't think it's Daytona or Talladega where you cut your teeth. I think we could probably go ahead and start at maybe, I don't know, a half-mile track somewhere, maybe Martinsville. But I just think that there needs to be an opportunity. We can't operate like it's 1965, right? If the Cletuses of the world want to come, they shouldn't be able to buy a seat at a certain level, but gosh darn it, they should be able to buy a seat somewhere. Like let them go run and race if they want to go run and race.
So this is what I'm going to say. And I agree with most of what you say. And there is a place they can go. They can go run the vintage division of NASCAR, where they run the NASCAR classics, where they take the older cars and they do that stuff. That's where amateurs and that's where other guys. This is a professional sport. Okay, let me be real clear here.
Yeah,
NASCAR is the top. It's the top of motorsports. It is the elite. And it's the guys who get in the truck series that try to find their way to the O'Reilly series that ultimately fill 36 to 40 seats at the Cup level. These are elite athletes. These are elite drivers. These are drivers that once they get there, they don't give it up, man. They don't give it up. They stay 15, 20, 25 years, whatever it may be. So there should be no way for an internet sensation to find their way to the Cup level. I'm sorry. I'm going to throw it out there. There should be no way that to jump right in. There should be a way to find your way. Let me rephrase that. But there should be, there maybe should be a system, but you shouldn't be able to come into trucks. You shouldn't be able to come into the Xfinity with no little or no experience. I don't care. I mean, even at Daytona, even we talk about the pros and the amateurs, they have to come through a certain organization or come through a certain testing and licensing and program like that. We just this is not good for me. And I'm sorry, because I look at Denny Hamlin, I look at Kyle Busch, I look at these guys as heroes and superstars. And that they cut their teeth and they made their name on short tracks and on dirt tracks and then wherever it was all across the country. They did not make their name by having 1.5 million or 2 million followers on YouTube. It's a totally different thing. And I'm throwing it out there. That may be my second hot take of the night. Don't come here if all you are is an internet sensation, because you've got no place on a racetrack with those guys at the Cup level, and you've got really no place with a lot of those guys at the Xfinity or at the O'Reilly level.
My opinion on this too is also it does a disservice to the driver. It's not even just the series or what's going on outside of the racetrack. I mean, Cletus he's not learning like this. You're swimming with the big fishes in a big pond and you're this itty bitty little guppy and you have no idea what you're doing. I mean, you're just not gaining the skills that I feel like you need to be learning. And Thursdays and Fridays in the ARCA Menard series is a heck of a lot easier than Saturday in the O'Reilly series, which is a heck of a lot easier than Sundays in the Cup series. I mean, there's just so much to learn throughout each growing point of these series that I feel like it's doing a disservice to Cletus too. But hey, I love me some RC. Richard Childress, he's a businessman, so
love it.
His decision for him. That's what he wants to do.
Right.
So Kyle Busch will be racing.
Now we're back
probably not at Rockingham in the O'Reilly series.
One more point. This goes back to what I have said almost my entire life, is that it is only a sport when they throw the green flag, and then when they throw the checkered flag, the sport's over. The rest of the time, it's a business. And this is a good business decision for RCR, for Richard Childress, and for what and it's a great business decision for Cletus, because it draws more eyes to him and does more for him. So business-wise, I'm not going to argue that point. I just think from a sports-wise, it's not the greatest decision.
All right, so I got one then, and I need some fan interaction. So in the chat, I want your opinion, but this is going to be my weaving through traffic, because I'm going to start with Weaver's opinion, because this is purely, I have an opinion, but I love racing, but I don't think I can be a fan. Like, I'm more than a fan. I've just done it my whole life, and KP's the same way. So Weave. We had Racing Insights had the numbers up there. 25 of the 37 cars had an issue. We see this next gen car be very resilient. You can hit a whole bunch of stuff and keep going. So my question is, in your opinion, as a race fan, as somebody who's grown up around the sport, is it a positive that they can keep hitting stuff and keep going? Because then the fan who's sitting in the seat, there's more of a chance that their driver's still on the track? Or is it a negative because they're professionals, to Kyle's point, and should there be more of a penalty with damage to your car that eliminates you from the event?
I don't think so. I personally, if I'm watching a race, I don't want you to see, I don't want to see these drivers hit a little wall or make a little bit of contact and they're out. I'd go watch other racing series because they can't hit each other at all or make any kind of contact. I think what makes,
feel like it's the identity. You feel like your opinion is,
I think what makes NASCAR
are so damage prone that you love the rough and tumbled NASCAR world.
And let me tell you, Tyler Reddick winning with no right front fender was a storyline for me. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I do think that there are, and I will give NASCAR credit, there are some things that still need to be worked out and discovered. And there are a lot of next gen things that I think we're still learning and we are making better for the sport. But as far as the beating and banging that these cars are able to take, as opposed to the Gen 6 car, I'm all for it.
KP?
Yeah. So I go, if you go way back in time, so let's go back to the late 60s and early 70s when I started really going with my dad and being on his pit crew in the early 70s and carrying tires with those big Dodges and all that stuff. Man, they would put bars and connect them to the frame that would go out and hold the fenders out, and they were called knocking bars. That's what they were for. Get up again. So those cars were not fragile at all through the 70s. As we got into the 80s, those cars were not. I mean, we've seen Earnhardt roll over, and they roll his car back over, and he keeps running. End of conversation. You just keep going. So I look, then we got a little bit into the 90s and into the early part of the 2000s. The car became very fragile where you could hit something and things would happen. Now we're back to a car that'll take a blow. The difference is the car will take a blow, but the underbody and the aero can't take a blow.
Yeah.
And then you're out no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You even though the car can continue to run, we've seen the diffusers and you grind off the front. You're basically out at that point in time. You know what I mean? You can't make anything happen, even though the car is still physically there. But I like being able to see these cars bounce off a wall at Darlington. I like these guys to be able to get into each other. And not bend the fenders in on the tires where we got a tire rub and we have some of that stuff. So, because to me, that's a little bit of a throwback for what I grew up with in the 70s and into the early 80s when I first started driving. You could lean on each other.
All right,
quote
you
my
can
mom-
win me over.
To
Yeah.
quote my mom, Steve, my mom will text me if the race is boring. I get a text from her usually that's like, "We need more wrecks." Like that. That's her level of
So
entertainment.
that's why I asked this because like part of me liked the artistry of taking
Yes.
care of your equipment, but I want to be clear that wasn't as awesome to watch as what we watch now. You know,
No.
so like
No.
so I can be open minded to the answer. That's why I asked you, Alex, because I needed a different opinion. All right, there you have it. I'm looking at the chat. It seems like mixed results. We'll see what the fans say. They have a
course.
chat open
Oh,
right
it's
now.
always
It's
Of
probably
course.
negative. So
Well, while we're on this topic, really quickly, I want to close out the show because we had a couple more things that I'm seeing some questions about, but also on X, we talked about Chevy figuring out this body.
yeah.
Steve, break that down a little bit for folks that don't know
Yeah,
what that means.
so look, here's basically what we talk about. When you talk about aerodynamics, there is a new body, which it doesn't matter if it's a little new or a lot new. A change is a change, and it might as well. It's like changing languages, whether it's another Romance language and you recognize the alphabet, or whether you're over in Greece and you don't even recognize the alphabet, you still don't know how to say any of the words. So that's really the point. So with Chevy's new body, the question is: A, does it make enough downforce? B, does it make it efficiently, or does it have a lot of drag? Not a big concern at Phoenix. Will be a bigger concern at Las Vegas next week. And if it makes downforce, how and at what point? Is it front heavy or is it back heavy? There's this thing called center of pressure. Picture a car on a scale. There's the center. You want the center forward for some drivers, back for some. It makes the car tighter and looser. So my point in all of this is that, they obviously can wind tunnel it, and to Kyle's point, which he loves, they simulate it. But now on a dirty racetrack, now from new tires to old tires, from attacking the corner to having to back up the corner, they will now look at what they thought they needed for an aero setup. And I would imagine the organizations ran different parameters. So they're just trying to kind of figure out what the sweet spot is of putting this car on the racetrack, both in what they adjust and how they set it up. Nose up, nose down, back up, back down, tip to the right, tip to the left. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So it's just back to laps. There's just not a lot of laps. So you test it in a lap, you get your hypothesis, big word. That's a big word for Elmo. So you got hypothesis out there, and then you go to the and guess what? It's what I loved about my old job. Every 7 days, we're going to see if your hypothesis was worth the crap because of the results now. And I think Chevy in general would say, hey, maybe we missed it a little bit. I thought they would have been faster. Now, the odd thing is, I thought Spire was running right where I thought they were going to run. I don't know.
Spire's had a great season.
Yes.
I'm using like 5 and the 24 probably as my benchmarks. The 48 had another driver in it.
Yep.
If I look at the 5 and the 24, it's going to say Larson ran third, but I think we all thought he was what, Kyle? 5 spots behind.
At least.
All I'm going to do is hang that on the body. I could be totally wrong, because I'm not in the, they don't invite me to the debriefs. But I would imagine the aero has something to do with Vegas is going to be important because it's a much faster racetrack. This was the dirty underbody, I call it, small diffuser. This was the short track package. So now next week, I don't know if they could take anything they learned this week to next week because it's a different aero package and it will interact with the body differently. So, I think this is a long game. Back to a marathon. We had this conversation, by the way. Congratulations to your husband who ran the marathon today,
Yes.
Alex. So what Chevy knows right now is this is a marathon, and they need to really attack it. This is where someone like Chad Knaus is so valuable because he'll make sure that the 24 and the 5 and the 9 and the 48 and all of their other cars that are helping them are all trying to learn and gobble up as much information as possible.
Yeah. Yep.
And we did, KP. We saw the new 750 horsepower too
Yep.
at Phoenix. So I mean, some learning curves for Chevy that we were expecting with this new body this year.
Yeah, there are. And that's, we spoke about it earlier with Childress Racing going back to Richmond with a different body and more horsepower and all this stuff. So there is a lot of change in the Chevy camp. And listen, as you looked at it and you talked about Spire and you talk about the 5 car, you talk about Larson and talk about Byron and stuff, to come out and run this car, like Steve said, in what we consider, people in the industry sometimes consider the first real race. They weren't that far off. They weren't there. They weren't. It's not a winning car. It was not a winning car when they unloaded this thing, but they're going to get more and more data points. They're going to get more and more stuff, and they'll figure it out. They'll figure out the balance and figure out the pitch. And I'm going to end on a little bit different note since we're getting ready to close this up. I want to throw something out here, and I thought that, and Steve spoke to it last week. I think, and brought it up. This weekend at Phoenix, you had the Indy cars and the Cup cars. You had the best of the best that America has to offer when it comes to motorsports in one place, in the desert in Phoenix. And sometimes I'll say this, and I hope some of the IndyCar fans and some of the IndyCar drivers feel the same way. Watching the broadcast today with Fox, when they brought Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe up to the booth, their analysis of Cup drivers and what they said, talking about SVG being a big guy, but having a light foot, a delicate foot on the pedals, and being able to, sometimes you need to see your sport through a fresh set of eyes because it gets you reinvigorated. It makes you think about it different. It makes you excited for it. Listen to those two guys in the booth today. Made me excited for Phoenix. It made me excited watching the way the Cup regulars, like Joey Logano, like he accelerates, what he does, like what Ryan Blaney does, like what Christopher Bell. It gets you excited again. And I thought this was a huge weekend for motorsports in America. We hear so much about F1 this and F1 that. By God, we've got some of the greatest drivers in the world that run Cup cars and run Indy cars, and they put them all in one place. And kudos to IndyCar Racing and to NASCAR and to Phoenix for putting it on. But kudos to Hinchcliffe and Townsend Bell for opening my eyes, because it helped me to see some different things in our sport.
It was well said.
To close it out here, we always end the show on NASCAR Inside the Race with our weekend winners. And that I'm going to piggyback off of that. My weekend winners for this weekend, there was one winner, and it was Fox Sports. I thought it was just a very well executed. All three of us know what goes into one broadcast, but to pull off not only one broadcast, but multiple broadcasts in multiple different facets of motorsports, IndyCar, NASCAR racing. Just an incredible weekend for motorsports, for the fans. And I hope people tuned in and enjoyed the coverage because it was well done for me.
I think there's a ton of winners when I look at the rundown, drivers that I thought had better finishes than they ran, but I'm going to take an oddball curveball weekend winner because he had a chance to win his first race. I'm the first guy to harp on Ty Gibbs. But I will tell you that
Poor guy.
I felt like he gave it he was back-to-back 2-tire stops. He was behind on tires. I think he was behind on car even a little bit.
Yep.
And I thought he drove just an outstandingly mature last 25 laps. I think he raced hard. He didn't race, over his head. He didn't run into people like he raced like he knew it could happen, but it may not. I thought he was very, very polite to his teammate Bell. I'm not sure 2 years ago we'd have saw that out of Ty Gibbs. But I think Bell got there and Ty conceded. He goes 9 to go. I can't hold him off for 9. So I'm going to say, you know what? I think Ty Gibbs, he's taken a lot of heat, both on the racetrack and off the racetrack and in the courts and everything else here recently. So I thought Ty Gibbs drove a really nice race. I'll put Hocevar, the Hurricane, up there as well. I thought they did a nice job of pointing out that, you know what? He started in the back and we didn't watch every lap. And maybe there's 5 drivers that are going to text me and say, well, he ran into me and you didn't see it. But I will say on television, I didn't see Hocevar making a lot of enemies. So on a day where he didn't need to make enemies, I thought he also ran. So the young drivers, they're my winners today.
Yeah.
Hocevar was running 7th on the last restart. And I thought, oh, here we go. Calamity Corner is going to pile up and it's going to be Carson Hocevar. So I was impressed by the non-aggression at the end.
Yeah, you got to listen. You got to put Spire. The Spire's been a winner every week so far this
Every
year.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I look at it, every week they've been a winner. And I'm going to mention a couple of guys here real quick. Eric Jones got a lap down early. Didn't get a lap back until sometime in the second stage. Was almost got 2 laps down, and they come back and they finish 10th. And SVG spins twice, and comes back and has a
11th.
top 10 going. What?
11th.
Yeah, he was in the top 10 until the last lap. I think he got passed by Eric on the last lap of the race, but he finishes 11th, and that is a great run, a great step forward, and a great move forward for Trackhouse and for SVG as a driver on an oval. A lot of times we just want to talk about the guys that run up front, but these guys had solid days. Chris Buescher, a lot of guys had solid days back in the pack. With not a lot to show for it, but those 2 guys had something to show for it at the end, Eric Jones and SVG.
Watch what I can do with the power of this microphone and the control right now. Steve, does Ty Gibbs win a race this season?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
love it.
Yep. He's well north of
Scooter.
100 starts. Gibbs is too fast. I think he's had 2 back-to-back top 5s, I think. Yeah, Ty Gibbs wins a race.
Yeah.
Pre-summer or post-summer?
Well, if you don't define summer, I'm just going to say yes.
Okay. Whatever. I'll take it. You know what?
That's the best
I'll
answer.
take
That's
it.
the best answer.
I'll add you to the people I've ignored with questions. It's now you, Rick
I know,
Allen,
this-
Adam
yeah,
Alexander,
yeah.
Lee Diffie. It's a long
my
list
gosh.
of people that I just answer the question I want to hear.
Yeah, I'm going to get payback next week. I already know for weaving through traffic
Oh my
because I
gosh.
put him on the spot
Oh.
right there.
What a
Okay.
day. Fun day.
Steve, such a fun day. Such a fun weekend. Love seeing the racing out there. Steve, what do you have on Letarte's lab and the week content leading up to next weekend?
Well, I think, look, we talked a lot about Phoenix, but there's some things I think we're going to touch on more. I think Todd, as I said, he's going to join me. I think we will break down maybe a little bit more depth of 2 to 4, maybe car by car, and why somebody did it, why somebody didn't. Maybe even look at the restart of how it could have went different. You know, maybe we just assume we know the results, but maybe we didn't see that exact spot because we didn't point it out. I think we are going to break into the differences between Phoenix and Vegas because they are bigger than ever, not just aerodynamics, but now horsepower as well. So I think everything you learned today, we need to give the old Men in Black, forget it. It didn't exist. And we'll see who shows up good when we stay in the desert, but we head a little north of Vegas. And I think that'll be our preview. We'll take a little glance at the points. I'm not ready to buy on the points yet, but I think you don't want to ignore them. There's a few guys in trouble, and I will say the 3 letters, SVG. Only 1 road course in, and he's up high, top 5 or top 6 in points. So we're going to talk about some highlights and some lowlights. Big
All
day.
right.
Big day in the lab.
Yeah.
Big day. We head to Vegas this upcoming weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. Full speed on Prime Video. You can watch that on Amazon Prime. We break down the Daytona 500. I've already watched it. You go behind the scenes with a lot of the personalities of our sport. So make sure and go watch that on Prime Video. KP, this is now when we give folks an hour back of sleep because we ran multiple races in the desert. So we'll see all of you next week as we head to Las Vegas. Thanks for tuning in. KP had 2 hot takes. It was so hot in the desert. So you're welcome for that. Tune in next week, NASCAR Inside the Race. We'll see you then.